Hello, hello. We are going to be looking at our 5.1 to 5.3 quiz review. We will break this up into several sections. So we will start by doing numbers 1 and 2. Here we have polynomial equations. I have the steps here in the middle, and I will try to work through this and fit it in this space here. Hopefully I can. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use C over D to help us find possible factors. If you don't know what C over D is, you need to. It's the rational root theorem is the technical name for it, but what we're going to do, C are the factors, or represents the factors of the constant, and D, they're the factors of the leading coefficient. Now, I'm trying to break this down into steps. There are some other things that come into play here. Like if there was, so actually in number 2, we'll see it, there's an x in every single term. So really the first thing we can do there is factor out an x. So we might see that at times as well, but these are the kind of the basic or general ways to solve these. So here we go. So we're going to write down C. C, factors of the constant. So that's plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4. So numbers that go into 4. D, that's the leading coefficient, which is just 1. So when the leading coefficient is 1, it makes it pretty easy. C over D, we just do all of our C values over the plus or minus 1, which when you divide by 1, you just get whatever number that is. So we're going to think 1 over 1, and then 2 over 1, and then 4 over 1. And so we have plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4. If the leading coefficient, which I know it's not, was 3, we would have to have 3 here, and then we would have more. We would have like 1/3, 2/3, and 4/3, just in case you run into something like that. But it didn't have a 3, so we don't put those. And so now what we do, so that's step 1 there. Now we're going to use the possible factors from step 1. So plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4, along with synthetic division to hopefully find one of our roots. So I usually just start with 1. So 1 is a possibility. So synthetic division, we list the coefficients from here. So the coefficients are 1, 2, -2, and -4. And then we bring down 1. And then we multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. Then we add 2 plus 1 is 3. And then we multiply 1 times 3 is 3. We add, and we get 1. And then we have 1 times 1 is 1. -4 plus 1 is -3. We are looking to get a 0 here. That's not 0. So 1 is not one of our roots. So let's try -1. We got 1, 2, -2, and -4. We bring down the 1. -1 times 1 is -1. We add that. We get 1. -1 times 1 is -1. We add that. We get -3. -1 times -3 is 3. Add that. You get -1. Still not 0. So that is not one of our answers. Because of room, I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this stuff. So we know that 1 and -1 did not work. So we're going to erase, and we're going to try a couple other numbers. So let's try 2. So now I'm going to try +2. 1, 2, -2, and -4. Bring down the 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 2 plus 8 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. That does not equal 0, so 2 doesn't work. So 2 does not work. So actually, I'm going to just remember that 2 doesn't work, and then I'm going to try negative 2. Bring down the 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 2 plus negative 2 is 0. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. Negative 2 plus 0 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So negative 2 is one of our answers. So let's go ahead and highlight that. Don't forget to put that as your answer later. Now, our remaining polynomial, we divided an x cubed by an x. So this remaining polynomial here, our remainder was 0, so this is 1x squared. There's no x's, so 1x squared minus 2. We set that equal to 0. And in this case, so we're now down to step 3, use the remaining polynomial to find other roots. If it's a cubed polynomial or higher, it's not. Our remaining one is a squared. So let's look on if it's a squared polynomial with 2 terms, solve by getting x squared by itself. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. Take the square root of both sides. And we get, I shouldn't write it like that. Square root of both sides, put plus or minus. And we get x equals plus or minus the square root of 2. So that's 2 more of our answers. So our final answer, we have 3 answers. We have negative 2 from before, plus or minus the square root of 2. All right, number 2. I already mentioned, so these things were underlined, there was an x in each term. So in this case, if there's an x in each term, we want to start by factoring out that x. So that equals 0, which this right here, that's one of the factors. So from here, just from this one, we know that x could equal 0. Because if we put 0 in for x, we'd have 0 times something. Gives us 0, so x is 0. That's one of our answers. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this remaining polynomial here. We're going to use c over d. So our possibilities for c are the factors of 25, which are 1, plus or minus 5, and plus or minus 25. D, that's our leading coefficient, which again is just 1. Sometimes it's not 1. And so c over d, we take all combinations. So 1 over 1, 5 over 1, and 25 over 1. And now we'll do synthetic division. So let's try 1. Remember, we're now dealing with this polynomial, so we have 1, 5, negative 5, and negative 25. Bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1, plus 5 is 6. 1 times 6 is 6. That's negative 1. No, it's positive 1. And then 1 times 1 is 1, so this is negative 24, which is not 0. So let's try negative 1. I don't think negative 1 will work either, but maybe it will. So we got 1, 5, negative 5, and negative 25. Bring down the 1. This will be negative 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. This is negative 4. Add those together, we get negative 9. Negative 1 times negative 9 is 9. We get negative 16, which is not 0. So neither of those two work. So let's try plus or minus 5. So let's try 5. Bring down the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Add those, we get 10. 5 times 10 is 50. So 45. And this is going to be way too big. 5 times 45. What is that, like 245 or something? But it won't give us 0. All right, well, let's try -5. Getting lots of practice with synthetic division. So we will try -5. Bring down the 1. Got -5, add. We get 0. -5 times 0 is 0. -5 plus 0 is -5. Yep, -5 times -5 is 25, which gives us 0. So -5 is one of our answers. This leaves us with x squared minus 5. And so again, fits this idea. So we set that equal to 0 and add 5 to both sides. Take the square root. And we get x equals plus or minus the square root of 5. And so our answer, we have 4 answers. When we have 4 answers because it's x to the 4th, we had 0 right from the start. And then we have -5. And then we have plus or minus the square root of 5. So we did not get practice on factoring a trinomial or using the quadratic formula. So those might show up as well.